60 years of her trying to capture half a century of supporting England in a single emotion is not an easy task for the fans who started counting the years of underachievement. In picking apart the atomy of England's consistent failures since 1966, there seems to be several recurring themes: penalty shootouts, qualification crisis, refereeing injustice, agonising misses, and England simply being outclassed. In fact, no other team has been knocked out of the World Cup quarterfinals of the World Cup more times than England with 7. England's performances on the international stage has notably improved in recent tournaments, and there is a notable decrease in toxicity surrounding the team compared to the atmosphere in the early 2000s. In this video, we'll delve into the reasons why the men's English national team has not clinched any major titles since their 1966 World Cup triumph. Perhaps we'll gain insight into why there is such intense scrutiny surrounding the team on the biggest stage, and what factors have led to their frequent shortcomings. The current crop of England players is eager to break down a long-standing curse that has begun after the heroic goal of Geoff Hurst in 1966. With intense media coverage and every expectational fan hoping for an English triumph, it's unsurprising that teams and players might choke under the weight of such high expectations. Yet the anger and the critical reactions after each failure may be unfair, as they often ignore clear obstacles that affect England's chances of winning a major tournament. You could argue that England has been unfortunate, often being eliminated in crucial moments through penalty shootouts. Some argue that the English team has been associated with penalty failures, influenced by media and fan expectations. Since 1990, England has lost at least 6 penalty shootouts in major championships. But is this purely down to bad luck for England, or are there other factors at play? Others may argue that a team composed of professionals who are collectively ranked amongst the world's elite in football, according to the FIFA rankings, should be able to compete evenly or even defeat the team England are facing in 90 minutes. However, in the past decade, when we compare England to other nations across the world, the English Premier League has witnessed a 58% surge in the number of foreign players in its teams. It can be argued then that this ongoing increase in foreign players limits opportunities for young English players to secure regular first-team positions, a concern emphasised by Richard Scudamore, who was the chief executive of the English Premier League. The implementation of the EPPP, which is the Elite Player Performance Plan system in academy football, emphasises the invaluable role of competitive match time in enhancing a player's technical skill as well as complementing weekly training sessions. Nevertheless, training differs significantly from a live game situations where the intensity is higher and the pressures of achieving results add to another dimension. One big difference between skilled and highly technically skilled players is that the latter gain their expertise through an accumulation of game experience. But let's be honest, just the strength of the English national team, with players who have won the Premier League as well as Champions League titles, truly rely on talent. Another debated argument for why the English national team has struggled with major tournaments revolves around the idea of players being worn out of fatigue, which hampers their ability to perform effectively in such high-stakes competitions. During major tournaments, players' physical performances declines, affecting their decision-making and psychological abilities as fatigue sets in. For example, during the 2023-24 season, Phil Foden played a total of 53 games for club and country, including a total of 35 games in the English Premier League. Phil rested on an average once every 9 games, not factoring it in midweek game cup competitions, which would increase this average depending upon how far Man City progressed in all cup competitions. In comparison to Harry Kane, who's now in the Bundesliga, in the same season played 45 games in total, 32 of which were league games, suggesting a rest on average every 4 games. Whilst the statistics are similar, there are some additional factors worthy of note. Firstly, the German league, which is the Bundesliga, includes a month-long break during the winter periods, offering players the chance to recover, in contrast to the English Premier League, where no official break exists. Secondly, the Bundesliga has 34 games compared to 38 in the English Premier League, allowing players more opportunity to rest and reset. More emphasis on managers such as Pep Guardiola has been placed on rest and how the congested fixture list has affected form and injury. In fact, a study in the British Medical Journal reveals that whilst athletes can recover from their performance within 48 hours after a match, the actual muscle recovery process continues for up to 72 hours. This means that muscle remains damaged for as long as up to 3 days after a game, indicating a risk in returning to full intensity activity before sufficient recovery time has passed. It can be argued that insufficient rest periods between athletic performance not only leads to a decrease in physical performance, but also impacts decision making and psychological abilities, contributing to an overall decrease affecting end-of-season competitions. This prolonged drain on English players is exacerbated by the demanding schedules of both the league and cup competitions, which in some cases leaves little time for recovery. The accumulation effect of fatigue not only increases the risk of injury, but also undermines mental resilience and strategic thinking on the field. Consequently, players may experience a decline in their cognitive functions such as concentration and reaction times, which are crucial for optimal performance at major tournaments. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please click the subscribe button down below for free for more great content. In the 2014 World Cup, England's early exit after failing to progress past the group stages sparked a largely negative reaction. The Guardian newspaper summarised the sentiment with the headlines, "Adios England, another World Cup, another flop." In addition, The Sun, with chief sports writer Steve Howard, described the national team's performance as embarrassing. With this sort of backlash and turmoil emphasised, it has become clear why many players opt to turn down a call-up for England's national team. But you could argue that England's no different to France or Germany, who may face similar criticisms at major tournaments. The persistent negativity and harsh criticisms can be significantly deteriorated as players seek to avoid the inevitable scrutiny and mental strain that comes with representing the national team under such intense public and media pressure. The general consensus is that players are expected to easily cope with the pressures that come with playing professional football. However, you rarely hear players openly discuss their worries and difficulties during such times. Footballers are like humans, they handle criticism differently, and some are more affected by certain comments than others. If a player struggles to conquer their own mental challenges, it becomes difficult for them to perform effectively on the pitch. This highlights the importance of mental resilience and support systems in helping athletes manage the intense scrutiny and expectations placed upon them. However, some argue that the media in more recent times has changed. In fact, you could suggest that the English media has maintained its characteristic tone. The media has constantly shielded away from incorporating potentially positive messages of supporting England, preferring instead to maintain a critical and often pessimistic perspective. Decades of underachievement and the rise in prestige of club football means that the English manager's position is no longer as prized as it once was. In fact, despite England's strong tournament form in recent years, reaching a quarter, semi-final as well as final, some believe that Gareth Southgate is actually holding the current generation back. But this isn't new. England's so-called golden generation struggled to live up to their expectation. Frank Lampard, John Terry, Steven Gerrard, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Michael Owen further fueled the hype around a group of individuals excelling at club level. In some sense, the priority shifted to fielding the best group of 11s rather than the best tactical unit, and many members of the golden generation have publicly questioned the tactics they encountered. Time will tell whether this is the same issue when playing Foden, Bellingham and Rice in midfield in today's current England squad. Today, only around 30 to 35% of players who regularly feature in the Premier League are available for selection by the England manager. At their big clubs, England players are accustomed to constant pressure and high expectations. However, when playing for England, we will wait to see if the future generation has moments where their talent evaporates, potential confidence issues, and a manager that may be tactically inept when balancing world-class individuals.